An official who is associated with Chinese state media is suggesting that if Speaker Pelosi tries to go to Taiwan, her plane could be shot down. Does the president have a response to that?
You know, I've been asked about, I know you're asking specifically about the rhetoric that we're hearing from China, but as it relates to the speaker's travels, it's something that we're just not going to speak to. Right now, that's a hypothetical. We're just not going to speak on her schedule. As we have said multiple times, we give advice and guidance to any members of Congress where they travel, to the region they travel, whether an advice on geopolitical situation in the region or in the country, and any national security issues that may arise. But again, I'm not going to speak to a hypothetical.
Okay, and on another subject, why is the Biden administration building a border wall in Arizona?
So we're not finishing the wall. We are cleaning up the mess the prior administration left behind in their failed attempt to build a wall. And I just want to be very, very clear here. On day one, we returned the money, the $8 billion the prior administration took from our military. We gave that back to the military for military families, for schools, for bases. That's what that money was being used. That's what it was taken away from. And so again, what we're doing is cleaning up the mess that the prior administration has done.
But President Biden, when he was a candidate, said there will not be another foot of wall constructed in my administration.
Yeah.
So what changed?
We are not finishing the wall.
If walls work in that part of Arizona, is this the administration trying to get migrants to cross somewhere else, like in Texas? What is the plan?
We are not finishing a wall. We are cleaning up the mess that the prior administration made. We are trying to save lives. This is what the prior administration left behind that we are now cleaning up.
By finishing the wall, is this?
We are not finishing the wall.
By filling in, finishing?
We are not finishing the wall.
By filling in, is this racist? Because in 2019, when the former guy was proposing a wall, you said that it was his racist wall. So how is this any different? I'm just having a hard time understanding how this is any different.
I'm not even sure how you get to your first question to this question that you just asked me. I will say this: a border wall. I'm answering your question. A border wall is ineffective use of taxpayer dollars. So it's ineffective of taxpayer dollars that actually went to the military, that the last administration, the prior president, took from the military, which took away from schools, which took away from military bases. That's what that money that he pulled away from to build this wall that he wanted, that is ineffective, by the way, which I just said. Just recently, CBP reported that new bollard fencing along the southwest border was breached 3,272 times between fiscal year of 2019 and 2021, requiring $2.6 million in repairs. It's ineffective. We are not finishing a wall. We are cleaning up the mess that the last administration made. Okay. Peter.
Thanks, Karine. How come Republicans seem more jazzed about Speaker Pelosi's trip than the president?
You're going to have to ask Republicans. Jazz.
Well, yeah, I mean.
Do they have jazz hands, Peter?
Do I have jazz
Do they have jazz hands? You said jazz, that they were feeling jazz.
We can have our Hill team check. But Mitch McConnell said, I think it's important for the speaker to go to Taiwan. Lindsey Graham said the idea of her going is a good thing. Chuck Grassley, I'm sure glad that she went. Is President Biden just worried about hurting Xi's feelings?
So you're saying because they said that, then we're not jazzed?
Yeah, absolutely.
We've been very clear. We've been very clear for, the past week or so, that the speaker has the right to go to Taiwan. We've said that.
Yes, you've been clear that she has the right. But why is it so hard for the president just to say, she's a brave trailblazer, and I think it's great that she went? Like so many others.
I think the president thinks that Speaker Pelosi is a great trailblazer. Look,
does he think that it was good that she went?
Here's the thing. What we are saying is that we cannot dictate, and we will not dictate where members of Congress go. Members of Congress, wait, let me,
Totally get that.
let me
But
finish.
When they go, he doesn't dictate it, they go. Now he can say if he thinks it was good or not.
I mean, that's not how it works. That is not how it works here. It really isn't.
Can you
Members
at
of
least
Congress
say-
have the right to travel wherever they choose. Our part of this is to make sure we give them a thorough and complete briefing when it comes to the geopolitics of the region or the state, or when it comes to national security. That is our part in this.
Now that Taiwan is effectively encircled by the Chinese military doing these drills, does the president think that the trip was worth the trouble?
Look, I already said this, and I'll just repeat it to you. There's no reason for Beijing to turn this visit, which is consistent with longstanding U.S. policy, into some sort of crisis. There is no reason to do that. We have been very clear. There's no change in our One China policy, which is guided by the Taiwan Relations Act of 1979. That has not changed. And so, look, the United States will not seek and does not want a crisis here. But we are prepared to manage what Beijing chooses to do.
And last one about that, there's a Chinese official who says the U.S. must pay the price for its own mistake, and we mean what we say. When the Chinese threaten the U.S., does the president take them seriously?
Again, the United States will not seek and does not want a crisis. We are prepared to manage what Beijing chooses to do. Nothing has changed when it comes to our policies. This was a precedent. This was precedent for the speaker to travel to Taiwan. That is nothing new, and it changes absolutely nothing when it comes to our One China policy.
Thanks, Karine. Do you consider Donald Trump to be a political rival of President Biden?
I'm not going to speak to that from here.
Well, you talk about Trump all the time. So do you consider him to be
I don't talk about Trump all the time.
ultra MAGA? You guys were criticizing his handling of COVID last week. You've mentioned his January 6th response a couple days ago. So can you say, based on all that, I didn't say anything about Mar-a-Lago. I'm just asking you if you consider the president to be
I'm saying from here, I'm not going to comment on that.
Does the president still want to think that he would be very fortunate to run against Trump in 2024, like he has said before?
Again, I'm not going to comment on.
It's just
I'm
a
not.
quote from the president. In the next election, I'd be very fortunate if I had that same man running against me. Does he still
All I
think
can
that?
tell you, Peter, is that the president intends to run in 2024.
Is there a concern here that if you guys don't say more, then these Republicans who are accusing this White House of weaponizing the Justice Department, weaponizing the FBI, that's going to become the public sentiment? If you guys don't say once and for all, we are not doing that.
First of all, we're just not going to comment on the Department of Justice investigation.
Okay,
we're
I'll make it
we're
easier.
just not going to comment on
Is
that.
this White House weaponizing the Justice Department and the FBI against political opponents?
The president has been very clear from before he was elected, very clear on this. Hold on.
It's
Throughout
just-
his
he's
time
president
in
now.
office.
I heard the quote. We will be playing the quote tonight at 6 o'clock. Is this administration weaponizing the Justice Department and the FBI against political opponents?
Peter, the president believes in the rule of law. The president believes in the independence of the Department of Justice.
That's a yes or no? Just
No,
is
that
the
is,
White House-
no, it's a yes or a no for you. I'm answering the question. You may not like it, but I'm answering the question. And I'm answering the
figure out what's
question and
happening.
I'm telling you that we are not going to comment on a criminal investigation. The president has been very clear. I laid out what his thoughts were back on January 7th in 2021 about how he saw the Department of Justice. And I'm just going to leave it there. We're not going to comment from here, from this White House, on a criminal investigation that is currently happening.
The student loans, how can the country afford such a massive handout?
Yeah, well, Ambassador Rice said that she's happy to have that discussion. I'm happy to have this discussion as well. Look, if you look at what this president has done, if you look at the end of this coming end of the fiscal year, $1.7 trillion that we have brought down the deficit. That matters. That matters. And if you look at the Inflation Reduction Act, it's going to add another $300 billion, is going to bring down the deficit again.
And you might spend $300 to $900 billion extra, so you can do that and not
But here's the
increase
thing,
deficit?
here's the thing. What we are trying to do here, we are doing this responsibly. You heard directly from the president. This is something that is going to be important for middle class Americans. When you think about 90% of the folks who are going to actually benefit from this are making $75,000 or less, and you think about what Republicans did just a couple of years ago, they signed off on a $2 trillion tax cut for the wealthy and did not provide any way to pay for that.
Who's paying for
And
this?
that, again, here's what we have done. Here's
But
what
you're talking
here's
a lot about how much it might cost, it might not cost. Who is paying for this?
what we are saying is the work that this administration has done, the work that the Democrats in Congress has done, is actually there, and you see that the 1.7 trillion deficit deduction that you see is going to benefit us in being able to do something for the middle class,
I
to
understand, but
do
you can't
something
just-
for the middle class.
But when you
This
forgive-
is about doing something for people who make less than $125,000.
But-
$1.7 trillion. That's what we've been able to do.
But when you forgive debt, you're not just disappearing debt. So
But-
who is paying for
but-
this?
And then I'll give you the second part. We lifted the pause, right? We're going to lift the pause at the end of this year, which is going to matter, right? Which is going to offset a lot of what we're doing as well. When you think about the $4 billion that's going to go back into as revenue back into this process of folks paying right their college tuition, that matters as well. So we are doing this in a smart way. We are doing this in a way that's going to be effective. We are doing in this a way that keeps to the president's promise on giving people who need some breathing room,
But
who
somebody's
need some
paying
breathing
for
room.
it. Who?
I just laid out for you. No, Peter, I just laid out for you how we're seeing this process and why
Is it
this
wealthy
matters.
Americans? Is it corporations? Who
Again,
is
I
paying?
just laid out,
Somebody's gotta pay.
I just laid out, because of the work that we have done in the economy, because of the American Rescue Plan, because of the Inflation Reduction Act, and because all of this work that this president has done has brought down our deficit by $1.7 trillion, unlike what Republicans did when they added to our deficit $2 trillion and did not care at all or thought about how this was going to be paid for. They did not actually put in a process or think about how we're going to do this in a smart way. This is not how this administration is doing it. Again, we are happy to continue to have this conversation, but I'm going to move around. I could have walked away and not taken your question, Peter, but I would take your question.
I'll make it worth it.
I'm sure you will.
Different topic.
Okay.
How come migrants are allowed to come into this country unvaccinated, but world-class tennis players are not?
You're talking about which world-class tennis player?
Novak Djokovic.
So as far, just since you asked about him. So visa records are confidential under U.S. law. Therefore, the U.S. government cannot discuss the details of individual visa cases. Due to privacy reasons, the U.S. government also does not comment on medical information of individual travelers as it relates to the tennis player. Look, the questions regarding vaccination requirements is I defer you to CDC. This is a CDC requirement for foreign nationals. This is something that they decide. This is something that is up to them. The U.S. Open and their participant protocols, I refer you to them. They have their own specific protocols as well.
But
So
just-
they're two different things.
But so how is it two different things? Somebody unvaccinated comes over on a plane. You say that's not okay. Somebody walks into Texas or Arizona unvaccinated. They're allowed to stay. Why?
But that's not how it works. Like we
That's
actually
what's
no.
happening. I know that that's not what you guys want to happen, but that is what is happening.
But that's not. It's not like somebody walks over and that's not how
exactly what's happening.
well,
Thousands of people are walking in a day. Some of them turn themselves over. Some of them are caught. Tens of thousands a week are not. That is what is happening.
So let me just lay out what we have done under this administration. We have installed new border technology and set up joint protocols with Mexico and Guatemala to catch more human traffickers. We have already made over 3,000 arrests in the first 3 months of launching an unprecedented anti-smuggling campaign with regional partners. We've secured record levels of funding for the Department of Homeland Security. We've put in place dedicated immigration judges so asylum seekers can have their cases heard faster. We've expanded labor pathways, including H-2B visas. And through the Los Angeles Declaration on Migration and Protection, President Biden brought 20 leaders, world leaders together to manage increased migration flows across the Western hemispheres. By contrast, core to the prior administration, immigration strategy was to build a wall, and they couldn't even accomplish that in the 4 years. And they also, by talking about building a wall, which would have taken billions of dollars from veterans, billions of dollars from schools, which is also a policy that just does not work. It is not that simple. It's not just that people are walking across the border. We have a plan in place. This is not like switching the lights on, right? This is going to take a process. We are fixing a broken system that was actually left by the last administration. And as it relates to the tennis star, that is totally different. That is a different process. That is the U.S. Open that he is part of. And there are CDC federal guidance that he needs to follow.
But why is there a CDC requirement for people that fly here as opposed to people that cross the southern border?
Look, we have talked about Title 42, right?
This has nothing to do with Title 42.
It is. Title 42 is the CDC imperative.
And you guys got rid of it because you said the pandemic.
That is not how it works. It is not. Title 42 is very much in place, and that is the process. So there is a CDC provision for folks coming through the southern border. It is not just for tennis players. Migrants have also a CDC guidance that we have to follow, which is Title 42. So that is not the case. That is factually wrong. Okay. Go to the back.
There's a big problem now that rainbow fentanyl, which is designed to target children, has been found in 18 states. What specifically is the president doing about this?
So we just talked about the overdose awareness day that we are observing today. I just laid out what the second gentleman and others are doing within this administration, we are going to continue to focus on the steps that we're taking, that we have taken. You have the $80 million that DHS just announced today on drug prevention, and the president has taken many steps. He's made this a priority to make sure that we attack a very dangerous drugs, serious drugs in this country. But
300 overdoses a day now. We know how the fentanyl is coming into the country. It's coming right across the southern border. The DEA administrator says so. So when is the president going to do something?
So I will say that you have seen a 200% increase of fentanyl seizures, which means that we are doing the job of catching drug traffickers. 200%. Hold on. 200% increase. Just
and
again,
Americans' life
seizures.
expectancies are going down at a rate not seen in a century, and part of that is being driven by drug overdoses. So what is the president going to do?
And we agree. We see those same numbers as well. But the fact that we are securing the border, the fact that we are securing record levels of funding from DHS so they can stop illicit drugs from entering into the country, the fact that it's not just drug traffickers that we're dealing with as well, we're stopping financiers. This is what's happening with this under this administration.
It's not being stopped. 300 overdoses. This is being designed to target children. Drug cartels in Mexico want to kill American kids. What is this president doing about it?
I hear you. I just laid out 200% of increase of drug fentanyl seizures. That is a dangerous drug that we are taking off the street. We are going to continue to focus. This is an important priority for this president. And I just want to talk about how you're saying that they're just the border, right? And how the border, whatever you just stated, just want to clear this up. Migrants
coming in, fentanyl's coming in, People are dying.
Hold on. So migrants who attempted to enter the country illegally are taken into custody by Border Patrol agents. That is how it works. That is the process that we are taking. They are then either expelled by the court order under Title 42, transferred to ICE custody, or monitored through alternatives to detention program as they await further processing. We have made 3,000 arrests in the first 3 months of launching an aggressive campaign to combat the multi-billion-dollar human smuggling industry. When it comes to what's happening with drug overdose, this is something that the president cares about. This is something that the president has laid out a plan to make sure that our kids, our babies, our young Americans here in this country are not continuing to suffer from that, or not continuing to be given or access to drugs. This is something that's incredibly important to this president. So to say that we're not doing enough, Peter, is just falsely, categorically wrong, especially on a day that we are observing what needs to be done. And we have announced, DHS has announced $80 million to prevent that. So we are doing the work. And here's the thing, Peter, if Republicans want to help us stop overdose and stop our kids getting overdose because of these dangerous drugs, because of these fentanyl that we're seeing in the streets, we're happy to work with them. But they're not. I'm moving on, Peter. I'm moving on. Yeah.
Thank you, Karine. As refugees were being evacuated from Afghanistan into the U.S. last year, why weren't they all being thoroughly vetted?
So are you talking about, what are you referring to?
Well, so as the White House was managing the Afghanistan withdrawal last year, we were told no one is coming into the United States of America who has not been through a thorough screening and background check process. But now there's this DHS Inspector General who says CBP admitted or paroled evacuees who were not fully vetted into the United States. That is not good. That is different than what you guys said. So how did this happen?
No, it's not different than what we have said. That very report, it did not take into account the key steps in that rigorous, you heard from us, rigorous and multi-layered screening and vetting process the U.S. government took before at-risk Afghans were permitted to come to the U.S. Again, I would refer you to the DHS comments on this. It did not take into full account of what the other agencies are involved in making sure that this multi-layered process and screening process, it is a multi-agency effort, and it did not. This particular report did not include that.
Okay, but so in the last week or so, we've heard the president calling elected Republicans a threat to the country. Does he think MAGA Republicans are more of a threat to the country than people DHS says may pose a risk to national security and the safety of local communities?
Again, DHS has disputed this report. And it said it didn't take into account the key steps that we have taken as a U.S. government, the rigorous multi-layered screening and vetting process that we take as a government. That was not part of the report. Again, this report is not accurate. I know that our team has spoken to your team about this, and the DHS has provided a comment saying just that. So again, I refer it to DHS.
Madam?
Thanks, Karine. Why do you guys keep saying the Inflation Reduction Act is reducing prices?
Because in the Inflation Reduction Act, when you look at Medicare, when you look at what it's going to be able to provide, allow Medicare to negotiate lowering cost for seniors, that is reducing costs. When you think about seniors who are paying, again, I just stated this, $2,000, $3,000 a month, and it's going to now cap that at $2,000 a year, that is lowering costs.
But a majority of Americans now say that price increases are causing them financial hardship that is more than at the start of the year. So where's the inflation reduction for everything else?
So here's the thing, the Inflation Reduction Act. Okay, all right, well, okay, so that's been confirmed? Okay, the royal family. So as I said earlier, our hearts and our thoughts go to the family members of the Queen goes to the people of United Kingdom. I don't want to get ahead of what the president is going to say. I want him to, from you all to hear from him first, and so I don't want to get ahead of that. And I said this earlier, our relationship with the people of the United Kingdom, and this is something that the president has said himself, has grown stronger and stronger. It is the United Kingdom is one of our closest allies. And again, our hearts go to the people of the United Kingdom, to the Queen, and to her family. I'm just not going to get ahead of the president. And with that, I'll see you guys on Monday. Thank you.
And my last one on this. Jen Psaki says that crime is a huge vulnerability for Democrats. Why would she say that?
So, again, I can't do electoral politics from here, as you know. But I don't agree with your characterization of what she actually said. But I'll say this, and I've already said this already. The past few months, what we've been able to do is create a pretty much clear split screen of what we are doing to deliver for the American people and what Republicans refuse to do. We are making sure that that we have Medicare and Social Security, and we make sure that the big pharma is not upping cost for our seniors, right? And making sure that we give them a little bit of breathing room. And you have Republicans who want to cut Medicare. They want to sunset Medicare. They want to sunset Social Security. You have this GOP agenda that was put out by the House, where they want to go after the Inflation Reduction Act, which will have an effect that will actually hurt Americans. And so I think there is a stark contrast here that we've seen the past several months, I would argue the past 19 months. Yeah.
Thank you, Karine. In this prisoner swap, why did Russia get such a better deal?
Look, I've talked about this, and I'll say this again. Here were our choices. Our choices was Brittany or no one at all. Bringing home one American or no American at all. And
they
that's
gave up a professional athlete. We gave up a prolific arms dealer who was convicted of trying to kill Americans, who was called the Merchant of Death.
The professional athlete is also an American citizen. So let's not forget that. Who
And
deserved
an American citizen,
and
so we can do this all day.
and I've explained how the Russians have illegally totally illegitimately treated his situation. I've been very clear on that. We've laid that out for you. And again, the president felt that this was an opportunity to bring Brittany home. He is going to continue to do everything he can to bring Paul Whelan home, just like he did with Trevor Reed, just like he was able to secure Trevor Reed's release.
How can you say that he's going to do everything that he can if he said just a few days ago he's not going to call Vladimir Putin until further notice?
We were able to do this through different channels, right? We were able to do this through different avenues, folks from the U.S. government that were able to make that negotiation, have those conversations, and secure Brittany's return. So we have been able to do this, and the president has been committed to getting this done. We are still working to secure Paul Whelan. At this time, we were not able to make that happen, but that does not stop us. That will not stop us in making sure that Paul returns back home safely to his family.
And just one other topic. You've said a few times that you really can't talk about communications between the Biden campaign and Twitter. Who is telling you that that's off limits?
I've already had that conversation with you, with your colleague, I believe, yesterday. I've already addressed this multiple times this week, so I don't have anything more to add. Again, we've litigated this all week. Don't have anything to add.
So not a campaign
I'm going to the
question,
back. I'm going to the back.
an
I'm going to the back. Go ahead.